views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Coming up on this edition of Perspectives, thousands of demonstrators recently marched over the Brooklyn Bridge, from police officers to firefighters to sanitation workers, paramedics, and public school teachers. Their mission? Protesting Mayor de Blasio's COVID vaccine mandates. Coming up on this edition of Perspectives, we go front and center on the line between free choice and public health. We'll discuss how individuals say they went from frontline heroes to now villains. That's up next on this edition of Perspectives with yours truly, Daren Jaime.
What's on your mind? Express what's on your mind. What's on your mind?
Anything relevant to life, you bring it to the table. Whether you make a move solo or a movement with a stable. No fables, you speak on your decisions. Cause in the long run, it's your voice, your views, your vision. Keeping it real with many messages for you to know. This ain't radio, but DJ runs the show. Entertainment, he rocks it. Politics, he locks it. The host with the most would handle any topic. Don't forget to share your perspective with shines of light. Cause it might make a difference in someone else's life.
Make a difference in someone's life. Express what's in your heart and your mind. Share your perspective.
What's your perspective? Let them know.
And thank you, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Perspectives. You are watching the show that elevates the conversation and shares perspective. Now, if you want more information, you can check us out on our website at bronxnet.org. And don't forget about our social media platforms at BronxNet TV. If you want to reach me personally, well, you can catch me on my Facebook page, Daren C. Jaime, and then also on Twitter and Instagram at DCJaime23. There you'll find out some information as well as some inspiration as well. As we said at the top of the show, we go front and center about the COVID vaccine mandates. Listen, we've got so much going on in New York City, a lot of topics to discuss, but when it comes to the latest COVID-19 vaccine and the mandates and how frontline workers are taking to the streets in protest. Joining us now to share more about this, we've got our political analyst, Joyce Johnson, who is with us. And Joyce, glad to have you, and really a real rough time in New York City right now.
Daren, you saw me for the first time ever scratch my head. It's a rough time, but it's a rough time all around the country. And you mentioned as we started this chat that the frontline workers are talking about they went from being villains to now they refuse to do the vaccines. I don't consider them villains in this regard. They have carried us through this pandemic. They were frontline workers. We still respect them, but with respect to their not wanting to or saying, we don't want to be vaccinated, I understand. I don't think, and I didn't want to be vaccinated, but one, I was afraid to get COVID. Two, as a carrier, I did not want to give it to anyone else. We are in a pandemic, a health crisis that no one has ever seen in our lifetime. The last big one like this was, I guess, the AIDS crisis of the 70s, 80s, and 90s until, there are remedies, if not cures. But what we have forgotten, and these are public servants. And the same way I got vaccinated, encourage everyone around me to be vaccinated, family, friends. Did we know what the outcome would be? But no, there is a pandemic that we're still living through. And while you may not, I am not only here in New York, Daren, but around the country, everybody is talking about their individual rights. But individual rights stop at the place when community rights are abridged. And, what happened to we the people? So, I appreciate your rights, our rights, but someone thought that, there was a time when you could drive 100 miles an hour if you wanted to. There was a time when you could beat your wife, beat your children, whatever. You could do a lot of things that are against the law. But in this instance, public safety, if first and foremost, it is our responsibility. And you being a pastor, you've heard this and you've preached it. How about my brother's keeper?
Yeah,
How
well, let's talk
about
about
my
this. So,
brother's keeper?
right, but let's talk about from Mayor de Blasio's perspective. You have one of the most densely populated cities in the United States. You've got the issue where people are literally on top of each other,
On top.
curbing the spread of COVID-19. We know that vaccination has been proven, effective, but you do have people who say, "Listen, you just can't allow. We should be allowed to have freedom of choice here." I mean, is this for one of the first times that we're saying that you probably agree with the mayor in terms of the perspective and position?
Freedom of choice, freedom of, I can do what I want to do. I was a 6-year-old, and before you went to grade school, you had to have measles, mumps, and all of these shots. When you travel abroad, the diphtheria, in order to go in, diphtheria or whatever, to go into other countries. So, freedom of choice, we have taken that to a place where if there's freedom of choice, then go on Robinson Crusoe's island and live, and you can do just what you want. In a country with over 600 million people, if everybody decided that I'm going to do me, then what about we? Particularly, Daren, you can feel that way, but, in the public sector, these folks are hired to do their jobs. With every employer that hires you, there are conditions of employment. I want you to come to work on time. I want you to whatever.
Right.
Their salaries are being paid by tax dollars. So they are employed by the public. In addition to doing their job, it is now a requirement that for public safety. And employers are doing it all around. And so what is different about the folks in the public sector when private sector are instituting mandates for vaccinations, not to be punitive, but for safety? 700,000 people are dead because of this virus. So, and how does it spread? It spreads amongst one to another in communities, large, dense spaces, and all of that. And so while I appreciate, I would get it because why am I vaccinated with a booster? Because I don't want the disease. I don't want to die. And I don't want to be, if I'm a carrier, I don't want to be, carrying on with someone else in my family, friends, business, community, the associations I belong to, the public spaces I go into. I would not want to carry this there to infect others who might die. Family, friends, and the greater community. I'm sorry, I just don't understand it. I don't understand it. And no, they are wrong. I don't want my rights abridged, but when my rights, my rights never trump the greater good.
Well, let me ask this question. If vaccination really doesn't stop COVID, if it doesn't really stop it, getting it or passing it, then how do you rationalize it?
It does stop it. The vaccine kills the virus. We are vaccinated, and so I'm. If it's the call of the herd immunity piece, I may be vaccinated, but we've heard of the breakthrough. We've heard of the breakthrough. It's not a perfect science. I mean, we're in this now a year and a half. I never thought we would see a vaccine that can stop the COVID virus. And of course, we had the mutation, and there are going to be other mutations. And so what the body needs is some protection. Everybody needs some protection against the next strain. And that's how the virus is not a killer for all. If I have a breakthrough, I won't die. That says that the vaccine is working. So my point, but beyond this, not beyond the science, in addition to the science, you don't have the right. There are so many restrictions on what we can do and how we can conduct ourselves. If I were on my Robinson Crusoe Island, I could honestly do what I wanted to do, but that's not where I live. And so in the public sphere, among 600 million people, 8 million here in New York, 16 million, 4 million here in New York, and 8 million in the state. There is, in the face of this pandemic, we are trying to curb its spread. We're trying to stop what is certainly going to be another breakthrough of a virus, which will give us more protection. And so we're saving lives, one another's lives, families' lives, community lives.
Let me come back and take a break. Talk more with Joyce coming up after the break. We'll talk about what the federal judge has said. We'll weigh in on that and get her perspective when we return right after this. And we are back here on Perspectives. Daren Jaime here with you, talking with our political contributor, Joyce Johnson, talking about the recent mandates by New York City Mayor New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio, and talking about making sure that people are vaccinated. A recent protest across the Brooklyn Bridge saw that of frontline healthcare workers, in addition to police, fire, and also school teachers in protest of the mayor's decision to require vaccination for these people. Talking now, Joyce Johnson, our political contributor, we bring it back to her. And Joyce, the federal judge has imposed and said that, yes, the mayor does have the right to be able to say these people have the right, should be vaccinated, and it's legal and it's law. But somewhere along the line, you got those who are saying, listen, this could be something that could be discussed between myself and my doctor, much less a mayor having to make this kind of dictate. Now, the federal judge says it's all right, but we got to be honest, there are some exceptions to the rules here.
Of course, there are exceptions to the rule, and those exceptions should be dealt with as exceptions. As you said, some people have underlying conditions that a vaccine may do more harm to exacerbate what is already underlying conditions. Those are the exceptions. If I was that, those people, the 1%, 2%, or whatever the number, legitimately, no one would argue with that. I don't think the mayor would argue with it. I don't think the people who they report to in their jobs would argue with that. But just universally saying, not underline, just that I don't want to do it because I don't want to do it. In the face of the first, a pandemic. I'm a scientist, so I understand the science. I understand my major was microbiology, so maybe I'm just a little bit more understanding of the science of it. And understand too, we still don't know all of the answers because all of this is evolving as a science. Science is a trial and error. The trial and error, I think, has done more. The trial and the vaccines have done more to stem the tide of the daily 2 and 3 and 4 and 5,000 people a day who were dying around the country, to the point where we've got now closing in on 1 million people before a vaccine was discovered and found and put into use, and so many people taking it. That is evidence in it of itself, evidence that it works. And will it work for everyone? No, because there have been folks, but who have died even with the vaccine, the breakout cases or breakthrough cases, but the majority of us are living. And is I have had the vaccine. I've said it before. The double dose, got the booster. Why? Not only for me, but for the people around me, and have all got vaccinated. And the evidence is the number of people dying daily have gone from 10, 15,000 a day and out the country to where there may be 1,000 or two in a population of 600 million, 300 million. Sorry.
Well, and when we look at from a national level, we know that President Joe Biden has actually weighed in. We talked about New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio, but President Biden took it even further when it talks about when it comes to first responders, either get the vaccine or be fired.
Well, and so here's your choice. People are mad because that it is your choice. It is your choice to walk off the job. I pray that there are people who say we're going to step up and I'll take your job because I want your job, that people, paid by tax dollars, good job, good benefits and all of that. And I'm also willing to do my part to help stem this pandemic. And it goes back to, once again, our brother's keeper. It is not just me and my want. And we live in a country of 300 million. It is we, the people. And somewhere along the line, my we is out the window for the we.
Yeah, but one thing that we haven't talked about is with all these resignations, the potential resignations of people who could actually, say, listen, I'm not going to take the vaccine. I'll get fired. I'll quit. I really am thinking about the struggle now, because when we talk about work in America, it's hard to find people to find jobs right now. I mean, the jobs are out there, and you've got employers who are saying, listen, we can't even find stable work. What's this going to do for the workforce?
We will see. 700 million people, not all of certainly of working age. 700,000 are not in this discussion right now because they are dead from COVID, having COVID and dying from COVID. So we don't know that. And so your point, that 700,000 are out of the market. And so do we want to double that with another, continue as we are? I'm not going to get vaccinated because we thought the COVID-19 and then this variant came along, which says that something in the water, something or whatever, is where we're getting these things faster than has been usual in medical science or medical happening. Not medical science is unusual. We're saying something in the environment, something that we're doing, we are the spreader. You understand what I'm saying is that it's a balance, and we are not the only state or municipality around the country where elected officials are saying, I'm sorry, you got to get vaccinated. And if you want, in not only in the private sector, but now in the public sector. So the private sector is doing their things. And Daren, do you really think that for the lack of, I'm waiting to see the numbers of people who don't get vaccinated and therefore lose their jobs? I have to believe, good common sense and good, want to live and prosper and support your families. I would have to believe it's not going to be the mass numbers that folks are talking about.
Right. Well, let me go.
The economy, stupid. It's I've got to sustain myself.
Yeah,
and my family.
There's the thing about sustaining, but people, the crazy part about it is, and I won't say crazy because people are making their own individual decisions, but people are making those decisions and saying, listen, I will not, I shall not, and if it comes down to me and my job, some are leaving careers that they've spent years in over this, and it's just gotten to the place. But when you look at foreign countries, England, for that, you have people who are required, and it's not as much of a pushback. As a matter of fact, I was talking to somebody from England the other day, and they were saying, what is going on in your country? Like, why is it that, Americans always have an opinion, and it's showing in this?
Well, and here's the point, and here's where my geek, and I've said this to so many people, here's my geek, and when they were forming this country, and there was something called the Constitution, and the preamble to the Constitution starts like this: "We the people, in order to form a more perfect union, provide for common defense, promote the general welfare to secure the liberties and prosperity for our future generations," and yada, yada, yada. That's what I was taught. That's been, the way forward for the American for forever. The preamble says, "We the people." And so all of this individualism is really a function of still the aftermath of Donald Trump. And everyone says that I can do what I want to do. And and there is no longer any we. And I'm sorry to say to my fellow Americans, 300 million are saying it's we the people. And for those outliers, yes, you may lose your jobs. Yes, you have a choice. And if you choose to lose your job, because you don't want to do the vaccine, that is your choice, and the consequences you take are yours. And I pray for all that the consequences are not also to your families, your friends, families, and fellow Americans, that your choice means that more will pass away, or that you will. Public safety first.
All right, taking a quick break. Got more with Joyce. Final segment when we return right here on Perspectives. Back here on Perspectives, Daren Jaime here, talking with our political contributor, Joyce Johnson. As always, live conversation. Joyce, let me move it forward. I mean, New Yorkers are mad. I mean, they're mad with, I keep calling him governor, but New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio. When this new administration comes in, which we will see in just a little while, this is going to be a hot button issue. How do you think it's going to play out? And we believe possibly that Eric Adams will probably get away with the nomination and be elected. But even if it's not him, that person will take office as mayor. How do you think it's going to play out?
You mean as far as the
vaccination,
the vaccinations?
Yeah,
I believe that Eric will take the same stance. Public safety. Look at what he's saying about public safety with police and crime matters. So it will be his job and his administration's job to enforce public safety at all levels. This vaccine issue is a public health safety issue. So I am confident that Bill de Blasio's presentation may not be all the best, and maybe some authoritative and whatnot. And I think this wave of I'm not going to do, we've seen this before. This is like a union negotiation piece or a strike piece where the opposite sides and, that they come to the table and folks are going to express themselves. And there is that absolute right. That's the one thing we still have, freedom of speech. But when it comes down to it, if your freedom of speech, your want to do you does not hinder our right, opportunity, and mandate for public safety on all levels: gun safety, crime, health safety, and all of that. So,
yeah. I want to add. No, I'm sorry, I'm going to cut you off. Go ahead.
No. Simply, Eric's presentation may be different, not as authoritative, but it will be the same result. I am confident.
And as Mayor de Blasio's New York City mayoral career comes to an end, do we see this as an end to his political career?
You were asking me this personally? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. He has, and he's talked about he's running for governor and whatever. But frankly, yes. I have not been I've not been a fan of his for some time, having nothing personally, against Bill de Blasio, but how his administration, how he has run various operations and the tone and visionary. No, in my mind, let me say this. I would not vote for him for anything else.
Yeah.
And
as far as the governor's race is concerned, it probably will be pretty wide open. I mean, we know that probably Lieutenant Governor Kathy Hochul, who is now our governor, will turn around and seek re-election. We understand that there'll be other names in the middle, but also from your perspective, before we wrap up, how strong will it be for a Republican now to come on out and challenge Governor Hochul, given the fact that Andrew Cuomo has resigned?
I don't think it's going to be easy because this is a Democratic state. And let's face it.
Democratic, now let's be honest. The only reason New York is a Democratic state is simply because of New York City.
Yeah.
Because when we looked at what happened in the last election, out of 62 counties, more than 40 voted for President Trump. So this is really not a Democratic state, but New York is what's holding things over. New York City.
New York was holding things over, and I think probably we don't vote as much in percentage wise is the rest of the state. So my point about that is I think the numbers are in our favor. The voting is not in our favor. But you raise a good point. And frankly, I mean, I'm not opposed to a Republican. I don't Rockefeller was a Republican. Harriman was a Republican. I want a good public servant, but I have to say that if Kathy Hochul does a good job, a strong presentation, values, her demeanor is fine. She's serious, as a whatever, and she would be my candidate. Failing all others, not failing all others, but I think she's making a run for the job. Yeah. And if she's doing a good job, regardless party aside, she's doing a very good job. It's going to be hard for anyone to beat her.
Yeah. We got to leave it there.
Not enough to say I'm a man. It's not enough to say I'm a Republican. It's like, if she's doing an outstanding job, good job. Why change?
Let the best person win. All right. Well, we gotta leave it there, Joyce. Thank you so much for being with us here on Perspectives, and again, much for your political contribution to the show. Thank you so much.
Always a pleasure.
All righty. Well, that about wraps it up for us here on Perspectives. Got to let you know, you'll see us next week, God willing, but we'll elevate the show, bring it to another level, more conversation. But until next time we meet, stay safe, share your perspective with somebody else. It just might make a difference in somebody else's life. Daren Jaime saying take care and God bless.
This ain't radio, but DJ runs the show. Entertainment, he rocks it. Politics, he locks it. The host with the most would handle any topic. Don't forget to share your perspective with shines of light, because it might make a difference in someone else's life.
Make a difference in someone's life. Express what's in your heart and your mind.